All right, and welcome everybody to a team to a bonus roundtable. I am your host, Ninja Spence 21. And who do I have with me at the virtual table?
A
I am
Hewitt.
Frey.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. A Hewitt.
And Nasa.
All righty then, welcome, and then that that this that what a twist that we are having it on like closer to at the end of January. So because that it had took that that the first weekend was a holiday weekend, and so we are now basically going to be having a double back-to-back features. So we are basically gonna going to do this month's bonus roundtable, and we are going to be talking about video game plot twists. So I am going to say this right now, so we all don't have to say this. Spoiler warnings for games that have been out for about the past 20 years. If that you don't want to listen to spoilers, we would just thank you for just at the like. You can comment and subscribe. But other than that we will be talking strictly spoilers on this episode. But actually, before we get started, and basically to my right on that the stream here, if that you would, that you can basically use that QR code to basically donate to our goal for until about that the beginning of March will be that the Trevor Project, which is basically that the Trevor Project, for those that don't know, is basically the foundation that is used to basically support LBGTQ plus misplaced teenagers, young adults that who have been misplaced from difficult situations and such, and then it is basically providing them food, just water, shelter, and helping them get back on their feet because that people did not support their life choices from being terrible human beings. And then on just that note, anything that you do helps out. Thank you for that. And then on that note, we will get into talking spoilers. So that was basically your last spoiler call. And who would like to go first?
All right. Can I ask?
Sure.
Because we might talk about multiple games here. Who has the oldest game? The first one I wanted to talk about is from like 97, 98.
Nine,
Uh,
nine. Hang on.
let me see.
I gotta check when it came out.
If you're using the game I think you're talking about is 97.
Yeah,
I
it is.
had I got 93.
NASA?
Y'all have me beat. I guarantee I'm not going that old.
All right, so let's I guess Spence you should go first because you got the oldest game.
Alrighty then. So that this one is going to be relatively quick for y'all, but I remember playing Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. It is basically one of those games that is basically that, Link is basically that he's basically sailing on like this rough just ocean sea, and then he basically and then he base and then he basically lands lands onto that this island basically, what is this island called again? What is this stupid island called that he basically crashes on that this island, and that he is basically found by that this young girl by that the name of Marin. So as that you are just going through this game and such, then that you are basically going through that your normal like Legend of Zelda Zelda, shtick, finding your sword, shield, smashing pots, that you happen upon this deity called the Windfish. So after you play through all of these 8 dungeons to basically like retrieve that these musical instruments to wake up the Windfish, then that whenever that you beat the final boss of the game and such, then that before you get to post credit scene, you just find out it is all a dream, that you had basically slept through the storm, crash landed, and then that you just basically played through an entire dream. which is
I
actually
never played that one, so I didn't know that.
This is gonna make my wife question things about me. I have only played the original Zelda for 15 minutes because I never
You
had it.
never played Ocarina of Time?
I never had a Nintendo. I always had PlayStation.
What the hell?
I never had an N64. The only Zelda I have ever played was back in the day, golden cartridge, NES, at a friend's house for about 15 minutes, and then my parents would never buy it for me because they assumed it was expensive because it was a shiny cartridge. So I have literally played 15 minutes of any Zelda. Okay, I take that back. When Toys R Us still had a controller that allowed you to play video games in the store, remember back in the day, like you had to pull the card out from behind the thing and then take it up to the manager's office to actually get a video game?
Yep.
Okay, I was about to say, or did I just make myself sound embarrassingly
I'm not
Yeah.
that much. I'm not that much younger than you, dear.
So I played it. I played whatever one first came out on N64.
Ocarina of Time.
That's Ocarina of Time.
Okay, so I guess I did play a little bit. I think it
It
was
was Ocarina of Time and then Majora's Mask.
I was in a big field. There was a cow. That's all I remember because I got to play like until the demo stopped and reset. It's kind of like I've only played enough of Panzer Dragoon from the demo reels that was on the Sega at the Blockbuster at the time.
Blockbuster. Oh, that the days of basically renting games and stuff. Oh yes, and then at the name of that island was Coho Linnet Island. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so then that is my first one. Who wants to go next?
Okay, who had what? I feel like we should do this by age so that the last person who has the youngest game might actually be the one that really needs to say a spoiler alert. Because I guarantee
You said yours was 96, right?
no, mine's 97, 98, depending on if you look at the Japanese versus American release.
Mine's 97 as well. Oh, January 31st, 1997. We're about getting up on its birthday.
The game that I think you're going to talk about is the one I have played the absolute most.
I am aware. All right. My game probably came out before your game, so I'll go next. The game I am talking about, which if anyone knows anything about the lore of this game, as soon as I say it, you're going to know what I'm going to say. But Final Fantasy VII. And there have been character deaths before and since, but one of the most shocking and iconic times in a video game is the death of Aerith in Final Fantasy VII at the end of Disc 1, right?
It's no, it's
Or Disc 2.
it's in disc 2 because disc 1 I believe ends. Disc 1 ends when you leave the temple.
She dies at the temple.
No, she doesn't die at the temple. She dies at the ancient village.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Disc 1. Either way, I have I actually didn't originally play Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation the first time we played it. We actually rented it from the library as a PC port. And we didn't get very far because the controls were janky as all get out. And then eventually we got Final Fantasy VII. And then realized we had to get a PlayStation 1 memory card for our PlayStation 2. So that was a fun trip to Walmart for my dad. And my brother and I were both playing it on different games. And he liked Aerith. That he liked the character a lot. And the shriek from my brother when Aerith Gainsborough was skewered like a fucking kebab, and he had no idea it was coming, is a shriek.
You cut M. You cut out. M. You cut out.
I heard you.
Sorry.
I can't tell where I cut out because it doesn't beep at me.
The shriek my brother made.
Oh, well, the shriek my brother made when Aerith Gainsborough was skewered like a kebab is like no other shriek I have ever heard in my life since. Because he didn't know it was coming. But, of course, it's like a well-known fact now. But at the time, having one of your party members in a game permadead, that, at that point in a game, was not pretty unheard of and devastating. I'm interested to see if they change it up at all in the remake, but I highly doubt they're going to change much about it.
If you hit the right button, she'll turn around and just bitch slap Sephiroth down.
I mean, there's ways to get around it so she's still in your party when you fight. Like, there's glitches and stuff you can do. But she's never gonna, like, she did. She did.
I mean that's just so monumental up in video game culture because I listen to a lot of video game podcasts and stuff, and for them to basically permadead one of your party members like it's a Fire Emblem
A
game.
very useful party member.
Yeah, the healer, your mage, your summoner, like that
Yeah.
that that
Like,
was
this
something.
wasn't some third tier character that no one cared about. This was main fucking character, man.
It was 2 steps below Kamina.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll aggravate the internet with that one.
But yeah, so that was that was I knew it was coming because I hadn't played the game as far as him yet, but I actually learned through just the internet that Aerith died, and I was like, wait a minute.
I mean,
But
it had. Go on, sorry.
I just never told my brother.
He
I
deserved
mean,
it.
it basically became its own like internet weirdo because I remember that this website called like ariesdies.com, and I'm like, what? Very
Yeah,
strange.
It's
and the port that I played, she was still Eris. This was before they changed her name to be right.
now. I will say this because 7 is my game. Like 7 is the game that got me into JRPGs, really got me to love role play, and I'll say even got me into D&D and everything else because I found out through 7 that there was all this stuff, and also it was Final Fantasy 7, so I knew there were 6 other Final Fantasies at that point. But America didn't know the numbering system with the way that they released games back then, so that ended up getting fixed with all the other collections being released. But I remember being caught off guard by that when I was like 14. And I had been using Aerith pretty heavily because she was so in tune with healing magic and her limit breaks. And I was like, damn, why couldn't it have been Yuffie? She's worthless. She serves no purpose but to piss me off. Can I throw her at Sephiroth right now? I will chunk a bitch to save my girl that can heal people. Also, did y'all put weights in her body to make her sink down to the bottom of that water like that? Because that's not how dead bodies work. Like, for real.
Well,
Because
maybe it's her race, the Cetra.
are just
because she's special.
incredibly dense. They're just super dense.
The planet was like, mine, swallow.
I mean, also, she sunk 50 feet to the bottom of a lake right where Cloud was standing because he wasn't kicking or paddling. That's just limitation of the graphics at the time. Cloud found a cliff underwater. Yeet.
My headphones just told me the battery is low, but it doesn't speak English the good, so it goes, battery is lull.
Battery is low.
I gotta plug them in. Hang on.
So, I could go on for a hot minute because I also subscribed to PSM magazine when it was still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember all the way through the end of its publication, every couple years they release most shocking video game moments.
Oh, any website today, Aerith's death is almost certainly gonna
Arif's death
be out
is
there.
anything in PSM and then any other website. Arif's death has never left the top 10 of shocking moments in a video game for our age group. It's just one of those of people didn't see it coming, and it's what turned the Mama's Boy from outer space into one of the most iconic villains of Final Fantasy.
I remember when Advent Children was coming out, and when people saw her in the trailer, oh my god.
Let's take
They were people convinced she was coming back to life.
let's all take a moment to also admire that when Advent Children came out all those years ago, you could actually make out that her jacket was denim. That's how much effort they put into
That
her.
movie was beautiful, and it's still beautiful.
Oh no, it is. I'm just saying. Arif had like a grand total of 8 minutes in the movie max through flashbacks and commentary. They put as much detail into her design as everybody that was in the movie the whole rest of the 2 hours, including my boy Sid. But Spence, Nasa, did y'all ever play? What did y'all, or Nasa, did you play 7?
I've never touched a Final Fantasy movie game, so
Oh. I would suggest play Final Fantasy 1 if you get a chance. It functions like D&D. Like,
challenge accepted.
okay. Now, to be fair, there's 2 versions of the game that are out there. There's 2 different ports you can find on Steam. One functions with mana, like the PSP version, and the other one is the remastered version that has you can cast a number of these spell slots a day. Or take an ether to get them back. You can beat it in 10 hours.
You make a lot of assumptions about my ability to play a game effectively.
Oh, no, I said you can. I've never done it. I grind. I want to slap the hell out of Garland. But Spence, with your play of 7?
Okay.
He was chewing. Give him a second.
Food.
Okay. So Final Fantasy VII was one of those games that it was just like, okay, I can vibe with this. I mean that that it wasn't the traditional fantasy, but I can deal with that that the kind of like steampunk slash cyberpunk vibe that they was going for. Plus, then that they had Barrett with black dude with a graphic arm gun, and then plus that it was just Yuffie. Yuffie was a ninja. Very good cast. Tifa, best monk in Final Fantasy ever. So yeah.
It until recently, that was something I would try to play over summer once a year and try to do something different. I believe I have accomplished everything, including back in the day when the PlayStation still had a Game Shark to it. You could go to the Hell Room. Does anyone know about that?
Oh,
Not really.
Okay, so the Hell Room was the debug room. And that's how you could get Aerith back in your party, or you could get Sephiroth in your party. However, to get Sephiroth, you would have to sacrifice ever getting Vincent, and you could not control Sephiroth. He was a auto PC that would level up. To get Aerith back, I think you lost Kate Sith, but there's also a chance that, like 30-40% chance, you're going to fuck up the ending of the game to where you can't technically beat the game.
why are there so many gifts of Aerith with Willem Dafoe's face? Why are there so many? I'm sorry. What? All I did was search Aerith in GIFs on Discord, and there's so many that have Willem Dafoe's face projected over it, and I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
In the chat for Emily's eyes.
Hold on. Where are we? Oh, we got to open up the chat. Okay, the chat in the podcast room, right?
No, I think they're looking at in the bonus roundtable room.
Oh, okay. Aerith kicking Sephiroth, and that's really good anime. Why the fuck is it William Dafoe's face?
I don't know, but there's so many, and I'm just disturbed.
To be fair, they have, I guess, the same shape.
I don't care. Aerith's pretty. Why do they do that?
Because maybe William Dafoe wants to be pretty.
Like, they're... Oh, God.
To be fair, William
Make
Dafoe...
it stop. Oh
Wait.
my God. Make it stop. Anyway.
They used the Reface app. That's how they did that one. Oh, my God.
Okay, I'll go next because I think my game's the next
go.
one.
You go next, because, oh, fuck.
Okay. William's game, bruh. Okay, so has anyone ever heard of the Breath of Fire series from Capcom?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Breath of Fire was a RPG from Capcom. I've never played 1 or 2, but I played 3 and 4 because they came out on PlayStation. 5 was on PS2, and it was weird. They made it grim dark, and it didn't really work, and I don't think they've made another Breath of Fire since. But Breath of Fire 3 was the second RPG I ever played. So I'd gotten to like gritty post-punk / diesel punk kind of like world of Final Fantasy VII, and all of a sudden I got high fantasy in Breath of Fire. Reoccurring things in most of Breath of Fire is the main character is going to be named Ryu. He's going to have blue hair, and he can transform into a dragon. There's going to be a Ray, who is a bird-winged person or an angel person, depending on the game and the continuity of that one.
There are actually 6 Breath of Fires.
Oh God, 5 was so bad I didn't know they made a 6th one.
Well, they made one in 2002 for the PlayStation. There was one made in 2016. It was released on Microsoft Windows and Android.
Oh God, it became a cell phone game?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think there's multiple games.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. This is an Android game. Man, that makes me sad. And it looks like they might have broke the pattern with that one. Any case, also in several, like in 3 and 4, there was a character named Ray who was a tiger guy. Basically, big buff tabaxi boy that was a rogue. And the way the game starts out is you're playing Ryu. You end up with Ray, and you got your buddy who I forget his name because he's kind of a bitch and he becomes a bad guy later on, but he's basically your evil twin. Yada yada yada. Anyway, you go through the first part of the game learning everything, and Ray's your big brother. Like, he's the same level as everybody, but he has better stats because he's, older. And in fact, age of a character can play into their stats depending on the system with Breath of Fire. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I mean, the main character is Ryu, but you got your boy who wields 2 daggers and does backflips and stabs and shit. This is cool. I got other dude, I'm not really invested in him. And then I got Ryu, who never talks because he's the self-insert mute in, main character guy. Like, he doesn't say anything, but everybody immediately understands what he says without saying it. In any case, when you're kids, you go around for a while, you end up picking up Nina, who is the angel lady for this go-round. And you end up doing a mission, and Ray sacrifices himself to save the rest of the party. I started playing this right after I lost Aerith in Final Fantasy VII, so I started wondering if every RPG had a character that just died.
Just the ones you like, dear.
Yeah, just the characters I like. R.I.P. Nicholas D. Wolfwood.
He
Hashtag
hasn't died in the new one yet.
he gonna. And if anybody says that's a spoiler, that series has been out since the 90s. Any case. So Ray sacrifices himself to save the rest of the party. And you go through and you play the rest of the game and your kids for a while, and then all of a sudden there's a time skip and you come back and you're teenagers. And all of a sudden people keep talking about this thing that's attacking the villages. Lo and behold, you find out later on your boy Ray is a were-tiger. And he done lost his mind because when he saved y'all, he caught a brick to the head. He caught a brick to the head and went crazy and became a were-tiger. And for like, I don't know, 8 years was just terrorizing the countryside. You go bonk him on the head again, you got your boy back. And that was a big plot twist to me back in the day because I hadn't seen that before because I hadn't played that many. Yeah, Craig from Friday hit him with a brick. I would recommend Breath of Fire 3 to anybody. It's an old RPG. It's fun. It's got a different battle mechanic. It's really, really good. There's only the final boss is not the worst thing in the game. There is a non-skippable, you got to walk through the desert section of the game and use the stars to navigate and loose descriptions of the world. This is also where you can also find the ultimate weapon for Ryu. You can find an area to help you level everybody up. You can find a teleporter that means you only have to go back through half of it. Or you can actually get to where the final boss is. It takes forever, and it's like a resource management, and it drove me nuts as a kid because I didn't have the patience. But that was an element that I had not seen in a game at that time, and it helped cement Breath of Fire 3 as one of my favorites because I lost a party member I really liked, and then I got my boy back later. And it felt good. And I asked earlier if anybody had played it, and I think everybody said no. So I don't think there's much more we can discuss on it because it'd be one-sided.
Yeah, because in that I had had listened to Retronauts podcasts and stuff about it because then I'm just trying to get my knowledge of all of that, all of game history and such. Kind of just develop. But then I am going to kind of let NASA have a go at a game before we get back to some of the older ones that have been out.
Yeah, okay. So the one that I had said that I was going to talk about when we first started talking about this whole idea for this podcast, I wanted to talk about Witcher 3, but then I got to thinking and I got to playing some other things over the last couple of weeks, and I realized I have two other ones that I wanted to talk about. So instead of Witcher 3, I'm going to talk first about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which came out in August of 2017. Um, so I don't know if any of the other three of you have played it. Spencer has.
No.
Okay. All right. So the basic concept for Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was the basic premise of the story is um, a Celtic woman is on a quest to the Norse underworld to recover the soul of her dead husband, Dillion. Um, However, through gameplay and through the way that they constructed the game, you come to find out that this is more of a journey into the darkness that is Senua's mind, more than a journey into the actual underworld. Um, Basically, the um, the video game studio Ninja Theory, they got the idea to create a fully immersive experience, a fully immersive psychological experience for the player. Um, to do this, they consulted with a number of individuals who deal with various forms of psychosis. They spoke to people who have schizophrenia, they spoke to people who have delusional situations, and they took their lived experiences and through the miracle of binaural audio recording and amazing voice acting. Um, and Foley studio production and a whole bunch of other elements, they created something that you cannot, I cannot explain it. To play this game is to literally be someone else. And that someone is Senua, a schizophrenic, pre like pre-Roman woman. Um, and she is messed up. She through the various story elements, you find out that she had gone away, like gone into the wilderness, in kind of a form of self ostracization, self ostracization and self healing, um, to attempt to atone for what all of the village thought was her curse. Um, and when she returned, weeks later, a whole bunch of Vikings had shown up and basically killed everyone. And her husband was actually really brutally murdered. Dillian was uh, flayed in the eagle, basically. And so she then set off, remembering all of these legends that she'd heard from another crazy guy who'd been captured by the Norse a long time ago. A guy that she met in the woods, who may or may not have already been dead. We're not really sure. But through the legends that she learned from him, she decided that Hela, the Norse goddess, the queen of the underworld, had stolen Dillian's soul. And so Senua was going to get it back because her husband could not rest until his soul was returned to his body. So she goes through a number of trials and tribulations. She gets blasted off of the bridge to Hela's castle by Hela herself and nearly dies 1,000 times. There's this, they call it the black rot, that is basically crawling its way up her arm toward her head. And one of the early mechanic things that you're made aware of in the game is if the black rot takes over Senua's head, it's a perma loss of your save file. It will erase
Damn.
everything and you have to start over. However, the more you play it and the farther you get, the slower and the less the black rot actually creeps. So the first time I played it through and finished it, she had black rot on her neck, but it wasn't all the way up her head yet. And the final sequence, like the final gauntlet of running to face Hela, um, is cinematic and epic, and it is like you're one-shotting enemies left, right, and center. Um, Senua is kicking ass and taking names. She's not letting anything stop her, and then she gets to Hela, and Hela summons these like this final swarm of the dead to defend her throne basically. And it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how you dodge strike, how you roll, you cannot win. There is literally no way to win. And so eventually you're either beaten into the ground by these constantly respawning enemies or you just give up. And when you give up, Senua like has her final say at Hela. It's like, I'm not giving in, you'll have to kill me. And Hela shanks her, stabs her through the gut, and lets her body drop. And then Hela picks up the essentially this fake head that Senua has been carrying this whole time, this head that was supposed to be the reservoir for Dillian's soul when she recovered it. Hela stands up, takes Dillian's head, and takes it to the crevasse next to her, like her dais, and drops it over the edge. And you watch the head fall. And when the camera pans back up, it's Senua, not Hela, even though it was Hela walking it over to the edge. And so the entire, like the final scene of apparently Senua walking away from a dead body that may or may not actually be Hela kind of sets up this whole, was this all real? Did she actually go to the underworld and defeat the goddess of the underworld? Or did she like imagine all of this and run through this delusion as a way to come to grips and to let go of her loss? And so it's a really, like, it is a straight up twist. I remember staring at my screen while the credits rolled and not being able to think clearly because it was so shocking, and so unexpected. Because like the way that they constructed the game, the way that they put it together, it's fully immersive. There is no way to pull yourself out of it while you're playing it. There's no distance there. Um, and to see that final bit of, holy crap, wait, was this real or was it not? It's both satisfying and upsetting because you have no idea what the truth is. So there's supposed to be a sequel coming, but it's going to be Xbox exclusive, supposedly. So I'm a little pissed about that. Um, but we don't have a release date yet. Um, so I'm extremely excited, and I also am sad because I might not actually be able to play this thing. So that's what I got.
Oof.
I remember watching the making of this game, and then it was basically that they had basically got like that these athletes and stuff up in like motion capture suits to do all of the combat stuff. Like then they had reached out to combat professionals and did all of this motion cap stuff, and then that just as that Nasa was saying that all of the that the amount of work and detail that they put into this game was just truly phenomenal.
About the mocap too, the woman who ended up, she got brought in to do like the early demo mocap for Senua herself, to be like the body for the animation. And then they were having issues with the like figuring out the binaural recording system. And so they asked her to like stand in and read a couple of lines just for test material. And they ended up liking her voice and the way that she embodied Senua so much that they actually brought her in as the full actor for Senua, which was so cool because she had no intention of doing that, and they were like, it was just kind of a kismet kind of thing of right place, right time, right person. Um, so yeah, it's just a really really great game. It is definitely not for the faint heart. Like I said, it is extremely immersive, and it does deal heavily with themes of grief and even like self harm and stuff like that. It's not easy in the matter of content, um, but it is an experience to be had if you are strong enough. Like it is dark and awful, and oh god, the one scene where she's about to fight the crow guy, the crow god, that still messes me up. um yeah, there's a lot to say about Senua, and all of it is incredible and amazing. So that's what I got.
That sounds rough.
Yeah, that is rough, but it is just one of those good games that basically puts you into the mind. And then as I was reading about this, then it had basically said that this entire game was basically on par with the Psycho Mantis fight in Metal Gear Solid. For
Wait,
those that don't know, that this is not my game of choice, that this is just a common just twist that threw everybody off. That in the game Metal Gear Solid, Solid Snake is fighting up against that this character by the name of Psycho Mantis, and that for those that know that this was one of those boss fights that was just basically it would throw you off. Like he was reading your input movements, be and then he would be reading that your memory card like that. So I heard you like to play Castlevania
Oh,
and stuff
I've
like
never
that.
played, but I've seen clips of that, and it's so weird.
Yes,
Got to
that
put it in the right
put
slot.
in this. You got to put your controller into that the secondary player port, so that way that he will not be able to input read you.
Yeah,
But
you had to switch your memory card and your controller in that fight for it to not go south for you.
yeah, yeah, and then that was just a real, just trippy, just bit of gamer, just knowledge as that I was just like reading about Senua's Sacrifice, which is a very good game. I actually remember it coming out and such. That my game of choice for like my second one that that I am going to kind of do some of these up in like a rapid fire, but that the main one that I wanted to kind of just sort of highlight was Final Fantasy IX's main character Zidane. You just think that that he's just a rat tail monkey boy that is basically raised by a traveling troop of thieves. Nope, he was actually supposed to be the angel of death, sent to basically destroy the world of Gaia, in a sense, from like a alternative world. And pretty much that he was Goku. Pretty much that he was the story of Goku. Not Wish Goku. God dang it. I would at least say Shin Goku before Wish Goku. But that one but like one game that I do want to talk about is like have people now to have people on the panel have people on the panel played the Shadows of the Colossus.
No, but I remember
No.
when it came out and everybody losing their mind over it.
Yeah, then so it was pretty much a basic because it was done by the same people that who had did Ico, Ico. It was very kind of like that. This washed down, kind of like isolated. It was kind of like desaturated tone game. So that you were this dude just named Wanderer, and then that you had to basically save this girl's life, life just owned at this stone bed. So you had to travel across this massive, beautiful world, and basically you had to go and kill these colossal beings called that that they were like colossus. That there was a sand one, a water one, but essentially that this whole boss fight was a dungeon because you had a grip meter, a sword, a bow, and a horse. No upgrade. Well then that you did have like you did have like upgrades to like your grip meter and stuff like that, but that was what was that you know that 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 you know that that is what all of your equipment had. So pretty much, as soon as you get done defeating all of these colossi and stuff, you were helping the bad guy the entire time because that the colossi were actually the ones to basically protect this evil from getting out. So you let the evil come out pretty much.
Oops.
We
Womp
done.
womp womp.
We did a oopsie whoopsie fucksy wucksy.
We done goofed.
I mean that pretty much, but I think that when games do that in a sense before that somebody can go on to that the next one. I really do think that that is flipping the narrative a bit in like a good way because that we the player is always expecting to do the goody two shoes thing and stuff. But I am liking that the fact more that games and game developers are starting to explore those alternate endings and such like that, and then those major plot twists. So who wants to go next?
Uh, you know what? I'll go next because the other game I got is actually slightly related to Shadow of Colossus because it stole some mechanics from it. and that is Castlevania Lords of Shadows. Now, I was, especially when Symphony of the Night came out, I was Symphony of the Night, and then when they started releasing the 3D ones on PlayStation, I grabbed every Castlevania I could, because I remember playing Super Castlevania back on the NES or Super NES. And the game was very standard, had a whole lot of boss fights where you ended up climbing on a giant boss and stabbing them and crap. Took some stuff from God of War, took some stuff from Shadow of Colossus, but spoiler alert, because it comes from the end, but the game came out back when Barack Obama was still president, so I don't feel like I really got spoiler warned that. It's like, spoiler alert, Darth Vader is really Luke's dad. If someone's like, come on, bitch. But at the ending of the game, after Sir Patrick Stewart monologues to you for 30 unskippable minutes.
I remember the first time you I remember the first time you got to that point.
I couldn't skip it. Now, the first time I wasn't going to skip it because he gives like this big, huge, long speech similar to the one that Dracula gives in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where it ends with the line of, "What is a man but a miserable pile of little secrets?"
No, but I remember you sitting through that, and then it froze,
And then I had to do it again.
and then it crashed,
I cursed.
and you were like 20 minutes late before the 30-minute
So,
speech.
so then you go through the speech again, and then you have to fight Satan because it looks like Patrick Stewart dies. He was one of the 3 Lords of Shadow, and you, as Gabriel Belmont, never actually have to fight him, really. He had posed as the head of your order and then walks out as a man in sackcloth with a creepy mask on. Then you fight Satan. And Satan has a lot of, okay, you got to remember where red and blue cross is because you got to throw up a shield to get close enough to him and actually smack him. Failing that 3 times, then going through that freaking millennia of Patrick Stewart monologuing about the eloquence of life or not, you end up eventually defeating Satan. And then flash forward, it's Gabriel, very pale, with long hair, and a Telltale Symphony of the Night goatee, / Castlevania the Animated Series goatee, in modern-day New York City. And Patrick Stewart's character comes out wearing a trench coat and a fedora and starts talking to you as Dracula. Which was a huge plot twist that was not explained because the actual process of that happening was a cell phone mobile game and DLC for the game.
Like, you Dracula now. Bye.
Which means I did not play Lords of Shadow 2 because I did not play the cell phone game, Broken Mirror, whatever they called it, or the other DLC, because it pissed me off, and it still pisses me off when a video game has DLC endings. Put the ending in the game. DLC is fun extra.
Inquisition.
DLC is fun extra, not the actual ending of the game. That's
Friggin' Age Inquisition.
That's bull crap. And I'm not going to get into Lord of Shadows where Alucard is actually Trevor Belmont, Gabriel's son, and anything else. Like, never fully explains how Zargaz or Zabalza or whatever his name is, that's voiced by Sir Patrick Stewart, survived. He's just back. Satan didn't actually kill him, I guess, or he got out of hell because you killed Satan. And you killing Satan apparently turns you into Dracula. You go from being like the holy knight that must defend everything to, y'all, I'm just going to be the Lord of Shadows and be the biggest vampire ever now. I am the knight. Like, the storyline breaks down, and it's probably why we haven't gotten another Castlevania really since. And the fan community keeps remaking games. So that was a big twist. But it was a poorly explained twist. And it was on top. It was on top of weaker game mechanics. So I mean, they made a sequel and then just went, nah.
I mean that is fair. I mean, cause that was the rough years of Castlevania. That they should have just stayed to the traditional. That the Game Boy games did well though.
Yeah, the rehashings of of Simon's Quest and Castlevania 3 that they redid a couple times on Game Boy. Oh wait, you're
Yeah,
talking about Game Boy Color, like Aria of Sorrow and
no, I'm talking about Game Boy Advance and DS games.
oh yeah, Aria of Sorrow, and I forget the other one, but Alucard comes back as a businessman in Japan. Nasa. Alucard looks really good in a 3-piece pinstripe suit.
I fucking believe it.
Yeah, like pulls it off well. Missed the cape though.
No capes.
See I got another one unless anybody's got another game.
The only
I
other one
do.
I can think of is Kingdom Hearts 2, and Riku looks like Ansem for a while.
I can kind of like piggyback off of the Kingdom Hearts 2 one a bit because that first time that I never played the first one, I played Kingdom Hearts 2, and then that for the
Wait,
first,
you went into Kingdom Hearts 2 blind?
yes, I
Oh
did.
shit!
So I went into this blind, well, halfway blind. I had knew of it, but you know that the song Sanctuary was up in everybody's playlist CDs at the time before MP3 players were a thing and all
Simplicity
of
will
that.
always be my favorite.
So I basically bought this game, and for the first 2 hours, I was like, "The hell is this?"
Oh my god, it's
That
frustrating enough when you know what's happening in the first game, but to go in and be like, who the fuck is this? Oh my god.
that I am just like, okay, then I am playing that this kid named Roxas, and then I'm like, what kind of slice of life anime bullshit is this? Just that this is just kid me, and then that the
Do our
game
homework.
struggle. Yeah, then that the struggle game that the struggle game was the struggle. But after about the third act or so, whenever you start to finally fight the nobodies, that that these gray little zipper mouth
Mm-hmm.
things that basically move like Michael Jackson and stuff, and then that it's just after that, then it's just like, wait, wait, I have to sacrifice Roxas to become Sora because Roxas is connected to Sora, and then that you find out about like 30 hours or so later that Roxas is technically Sora's nobody, which is
Yep.
basically that their alter self. For those that are not familiar with the crazy lore of Kingdom Hearts.
I believe if it's a heartless is created, then a nobody is also created. Something like that. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, it's very weird.
And
Yeah, I mean,
you add an X to their name, don't you?
Yeah, it's an anagram with an X added in most of the time.
So that
yeah,
Axel's name was Lee.
Like Zemnis is Ansem with an X, Lee, Axel, Roxas, Sora.
Kari and Namine. How does that work though? Because Namine,
They're actually two separate people. Namine isn't Kyrie's nobody. The one in 365/2 days or whatever, that's Kyrie's nobody, I think.
okay.
The one that becomes friends with Roxas and Axel.
Hmm.
Whose name is completely leaving me at the
Roxas
moment.
and Axel. Oh.
There's also Buckethead and Slash.
There's Sykes, there's what's the guy's name?
There's
Not Zigbar. I know it's
there's
not Zigbar.
There's
there's
Zigbar,
Calvin.
there's Zigbar Zemnis.
Lucerine. No, it's not that one.
Hang on, I gotta look this up.
There's a Nutra to be the opposite of Mickey.
I mean,
Bruh.
but hey, I mean that the game itself that you had that up in Final Fantasy canon, Donald is a strong ass mage because he
Oh,
can cast Ultima. So there we go.
okay, let's see. There's Zemnis, Zigbar, Zaldin, Vexen, Lexius, Zexion, Sykes, Ax, Demix, Luxord, Marluxia, Larzine, Roxas, Zion.
Half of
That's not. I don't know if she's Kyrie's nobody. Hang on. She is an imperfect female replica of Sora created from his memories of Kyrie. That's what she is.
I'm gonna. Spence is over here saying they sound like Santa's reindeer. I'm gonna say, why are all of Organization 13 medicines? Sounds like they will cause anal leakage and drowsiness.
Like, some of them have some pretty cool powers and are really fucking hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean,
Dance and tambourines with blades. Dance
No,
and tambourines with
No.
what
blades.
the guy, the one that uses water. The fuck
Oh,
is his name?
Demix, I hate. No, that fight. No, that fight. No. Dance, water, dance. Like,
Ugh.
no. No, I would no that I would rather fight two Sephiroths at the same time than do that
I
than to
lost
do
to
that
him so
stupid.
many times.
But
That fight with
but
Zigbar was pain in the butt too, because he would
Zigbar
sharpshoot you.
Only
Zigbar was an easy one shot for me. That was a first full clear. That I would say that it was a badge of honor at my high school to see like how low and what keyblade you use to beat to beat Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts 2. My friend girl, she was able to defeat Sephiroth at level 33 using the Keyblade Sweet Memories from the Winnie the Pooh land. And then I'm like, oh, sorry about that, the 100 Acre Wood. But
I just remember getting Oblivion in The World That Never Was and being like, yes, I have my weapon, because Oblivion is the best Keyblade.
we just got
oh,
right.
thank you for the
Yeah,
raid,
thank you for the
Skate
raid.
Trilogy.
What? Huh?
Thank you for
What
the
happened?
raid.
We got a
Welcome,
raid.
Raiders. And spoiler warning for
Cool.
the Raiders that we are talking about famous video game plot twists.
In the original Kingdom Hearts, which is the only one I've ever played before everything got so damn confusing. Like, it seems like they let Michael Eisner write the story for it while it was all over the place. I
Hush you.
beat Sephiroth with the Iron Chocobo.
That's just your favorite because it's an Iron Chocobo.
I literally beat Sephiroth to death with a giant chunk of iron that I could hold on to. Yes.
I gotta be honest, I don't think I ever beat Sephiroth.
I beat Sephiroth with a giant iron rod, and it felt good because it's like, hey, Sephiroth, yes, kabong.
Kabonk.
Kabonk! God, just
When
dated myself.
I got Oblivion, it was a done deal. I didn't never use anything but Oblivion. That's the one I actually have a replica of.
I had actually got the Ultima Keyblade, Keyblade, and then
Ultima is cool.
I finally figured out what the hell Reflect does after all of these years of playing Final Fantasy, and basically Reflect saved my ass during that fight because it's just like that the one move that he does to where he basically wipes your MP and HP to no MP, 1 HP left. I actually timed it just right, timed my Kiraga just right, so that way that I am at full health whenever that he thought he can do his quick one hit slash on me. And I'm like, not today.
I just know that Lance Bass kicked my ass.
Yeah, Lance Bass was the original voice of Sephiroth. Never forget that.
I'm disappointed he didn't keep being Sephiroth after that.
I would
But
just
they
need.
they started going with the Advent Children voice, I think.
I know, but if Lance Bass had stayed, the rest of NSYNC would have needed to be Kefka, X Death, Garland, Chaos, and Kuja.
Oh no, 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 no.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh, but okay, we've gotten off topic.
Always remember Kefka's the real bad boy of the group. Kuja is just the member from BTS that was there before BTS was a thing.
Bruh.
But
What?
yeah, so I just remember when it showed Ansem Riku, and I was like, what the hell? Okay, cool, Riku's here.
He's also
Sorry, you're a little more excited to see Riku than you are Kairi. What the fuck?
Riku's like 8 feet tall too.
Well, when he was Ansem, yes.
Okay.
Any other? I'm trying to think of games with plot twists.
I've got one that's is a really deep dive on RPGs for the most part. Has anyone here heard of Shadow Hearts?
Only because of you.
There are 3.
Vaguely.
There's 3. a tertiary like cell phone game, and the company that made these, I think, only make pachinko machines now. But the third one's weird and is loosely connected to the other ones because of the transformation sequence and NPCs show back up. But the first game, you play as a main character, can transform into monsters. You got some friends, you go and you save the day. It came out against Final Fantasy X. So nobody played it. But in the second game, you play Yuri, that guy's son, who can do the transformations. And there's a lady named Karen, who is a character I used all the time in the game because the way Dark Souls work is when you hit your turn, a wheel starts spinning, and there's red, yellow, and green. And as long as you hit green or yellow, you hit. If you hit red, it's a miss and the wheel stops. But you can literally keep attacking until the wheel misses. So Karen, I always used her all the time because her having a rapier, her zones of attack were fairly big. Because she didn't do a ton of damage, but you can get in there and do like 8 hits. And at the end of the game, oh no, sorry, Yuri was in the first game too, but he loses his girl. So okay, at the end of the game, Yuri wishes to be back with his girlfriend. So he technically dies, I think, because his girlfriend died in the first game and they're together. Karen wished to be the most important person in Yuri's life, and she winds up getting thrown back in time, getting off of a train outside of Tokyo, and meeting Yuri's dad, who is a slightly beefier version of Yuri. And
Wait,
it turns out the whole time Karen was Yuri's dad or Yuri's mom.
what?
Yeah. So
What
Yuri,
kind of Back to the Future crap?
yeah, it turns out that she got thrown back in time, met Yuri's dad, who looked like a beefier version of Yuri, hooked up, had him. Both of them get killed by monsters later on, which I call bullshit because I fought God with her and she stabbed God 87 times. Because it tells you how many times you get a hit when you click it right, and you can cast haste and fury on people, and it's just like dooba 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 doo, and just let it go until you miss. So she literally stabbed God in the face 87 times. She don't get bitched out by no monster. Any case, you also get Geppetto. He uses puppets. You also get Valentine, who is a vampire that wrestles and smacks people with objects that he picks up. Like, his weapons are, I randomly found this thing outside of a restaurant. It is my weapon now.
Improvised weapon.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I'm going to smack you with a lucky cat. So that was kind of a weird twist at the end of that one. The third one, the weirdest thing is that you can fight Bigfoot, and Bigfoot's invisible, which is not really that weird. It makes sense, but you also learn Gung Fu from Bigfoot. Bigfoot knows martial arts and uses guns, y'all, and he's invisible. That's all I'm saying. He is the best secret agent.
I mean, that he is just busy just working on his Chromebook, so of course he is. All right, and then I think that we got one more from NASA before we wrap.
Okay, so mine should be the newest of all of these. The game that I am going to talk about came out in September of 2021, so big spoiler alerts for the entire gameplay of Lost in Random. So Lost in Random is a I actually heard about it from a list that was put together by Game Rant. Um, that was talking about games that have dice as an essential mechanic. I got a couple of them, and I'm still playing through other ones. But Lost in Random was one of these that it was specifically touted as dice are the essential mechanic. Dice are absolutely integral and not in the way that you would think. So the game itself is very much structured like you're a player or a character in a board game. Um, Many of the fights take place on like board game boards. There's a chess piece that you have to, like a marker that you have to get to a certain point on the game board. You can only do this by rolling your dice and defeating enemies that spawn to prevent your progress. Um, the core element of the story is there is a queen over this land of random. And she is the only person who has a dice. She has a black six-sided dice, a d6, that at every child born in random's 12th birthday, she comes to that child's home village and lets them roll her magic dice. That dice tells the child and everyone what area, what zone that child belongs in for the rest of their life. There are six lands. Uh, the queen herself residing in the land of sixes, um, which is like the high haughty the top of the top, and the ones, uh, one town is the bottom rung. It is a scrap heap, literally. It is a junkyard. Everyone lives in teapots and discarded shoes. So the main character for the story is this one little girl named Even, and her sister Odd turned 12 a year ago. The queen came, Odd rolled the dice and became a sixer, and so she was taken away. Even was pretty sure that that was not a good thing, that Odd was wanting to come home, but they'd heard no word from Odd since a year ago. So Even ends up going on this journey. She goes through all of the lands of random. She's unlocking gates that have been barred since, quote, the war. Um, Apparently, the queen, as you're going through all of this, you learn that the queen initially, um, basically, she started a war to get rid of everyone else who could wield dice. Even ends up finding herself a dice. It's like one of the only living dice left in the world. She found it in like a dice graveyard. And it becomes like her best friend and her battle partner. It's how she manages to defeat these enemies of the queen's like army that she has to defeat. The queen controls like a ton of automatons that have different like they're just a bunch of robots really. But it's a really intriguing gameplay, and through the entire game, Even is following the trail of this like ghostly apparition. It's literally a ghost, and she thinks it's like Odd, like astral projecting out to her, um, and begging her for help. Later on in the gameplay, you start to realize maybe Odd's not actually dead, but then who is this ghost? The final twist, that kind of sets everything on its head. Uh, at first, I thought it was when we get to like this final battle sequence where you're in like some weird demi-plane where the queen is trying to essentially like indoctrinate Odd as like her second in command, like her princess, her heir. Um, and you have to fight Odd. Um, it's not good. Like it is the worst I have ever felt playing a game, and that's including Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I come from a family that is mostly sisters, and I was like, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to literally fight my sister into the ground? Um, it's spooky as hell because there's these three floating heads that are apparently like the like great old ones of random. Um, and the queen was essentially trying to indoctrinate Odd into like her pact with these lords of chaos. Um, and it's really awful and it's really bad, and Odd creates like these clones of herself, and it's oh god, it's awful. I hate it. um but when you finally defeat Odd, you knock the this mask that she's wearing off her face, and it's like the mask was kind of like possessing her a little bit. um and so then both you and she are trying to run away from the queen, and you end up finding your way into this secret chamber in the queen's castle where the queen's sister is locked in some stasis and has been locked in stasis since she was a child, and they were playing with their dice. Like her and her sister had dice and they were playing with them like mock battle, and her sister got shot by one of the like the robot automatons that they were battling against, and her sister was going to die. And so the queen sold her soul to these lords of chaos to stop time until she could find someone to replace her sister. And so the entire like the final twist there is that the little ghost that led you to the castle, that led you back to find your sister, was actually the astral projection of the queen's sister. And eventually you manage to defeat the queen. You break that stasis, and the queen holds her sister as finally has to like let her go, let her die. And it's awful. And so the lords of chaos like come and they're like, so where's our sacrifice? And the queen's like, you're not getting them. That's not what my sister would want. Get out. And so then you're running out of the castle as it's collapsing around you, and that's it. You don't know what happens to the queen. You don't know what happens to Odd and Even after they leave random by floating off on an umbrella into the sunset. Like, there's no answers. But the twist is that it wasn't even your sister that died, it was the queen's sister all those years ago. And she was just trying to find a way to stop time and to stop this random badness from happening to her. And it's like, oh, that game messed me up. Like, I was not okay for about 48 hours after playing that game. I don't know how like how they even came up with that idea. Because it seems so innocent until you're like near the end and then you're like, oh my god, this shit is bad shit. um, it got really real really quick, and yeah, that's what I got.
That sound
Wow.
that's a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a very fun game because that looking just at the art and stuff of it, it kind of like reminds me of like that. I was listening to something by that the Tale Foundry, which is basically for those that don't know, it is a YouTube channel that's basically it explains writing and stuff and such. But it was explaining how like children's fairy tales are not happy go lucky, like like cover up in like fairy dust and sprinkles anymore. Then that they
Children's
are
fairy
more.
tales used to be don't go in the woods or something will eat you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then that they were talking about how like that it was that this dark, kind of spooky genre for just basically like this, and then that they had brought up Coraline. So then that the art style of this game, it kind of like reminded me of a mix of like Coral of just Coraline mixed in with at the Owl House in a sense almost.
Lost in Random, when I was playing through it, it definitely gave off the vibes of like Tim Burton. Like there was a lot of Corpse Bride like feel to it, just in the way that the models were constructed. A lot of the NPCs that you interact with, and you never really get like a lot of names for like the different species of them. There's wolf people, which almost look like they were ripped from Nightmare Before Christmas, the Wolfman. The model is almost one for one to the Wolfman from Nightmare. Um, the There's some fish people that look like Admiral Akbar. If Admiral Akbar was a Tim Burton character, um, there's oh god, there's like upside down people, like their mouths are above their eyes. Um, one of the one of the mini bosses that actually leads into a really funny scene with literal death, um, where death actually gives you a pep talk. It's super funny. Um, but one of the mini bosses is these quote Bagman twins. And the like the end story, the backstory for them is that they literally got lost in the woods. They were cold, they were hungry. They happened upon this bag that essentially offered them, you'll never be hungry again, you'll never be cold again, but you have to feed me. And so they basically have been capturing people and feeding them to the bag. And so you actually have to fight the Bag Boy twins, and it's one of the creepiest fights in the game. Straight up grim vibes, like not okay, not okay at all. Um, but yeah, it's very Tim Burton in its like art style. Um, really, really fun stuff. Scary and creepy and heart wrenching, but fun.
Alrighty then. I think that that those are enough of the twists that we can just tightly like secure that the spoilers back in up into like the video game bottles and such. I think that we had all had some good talks about video game twists and such. That I would just like to just thank those on the panel for watching, and then I do believe that we are out of time, so I'm about to hand it over to Miro for basically our upcoming coming shows and an announcement, and just Frey to our socials.
Tomorrow we'll be back with Holy Winds on around 8 o'clock. Wednesday we'll be back with the Redwell Chronicles. Thursday we'll be back with Tears of Kairos, and next Sunday we will be doing a summary of everything that has happened with the OGL debacle that started back near the new year.
And its
So
outcome.
yeah, and it's out. Mostly it's
We have opinions.
we do, and it's mostly going to be a since it seems to be resolved ish. We'll be kind of talking about and breaking down what happened over the course of it. I think. Plus, every last one
And
of us.
what long-term problems we think it's going to cause.
It's the long-term problems have already. The long-term problem has a silver. Spence burped. I got to catch that.
Sounded more like a growl.
Hopefully, it wasn't a toot.
No, that would be you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we got. Next month is mostly normal. To y'all here and anyone that's from the TBA team that's listening at home, please let me know if there's anything special that needs to be put on the calendar for next month. I will have that out by Tuesday. I think that's everything for me.
Alrighty. Well, we had fun tonight, and we appreciate the raid and having a few extra people listening in. If you ever want to check out our other videos, everything else that we've done in the last several years, D&D podcast, all sorts of stuff that we do is over on our YouTube channel, which is under Team Bonus Action. We are also on Facebook under Team Bonus Action. We are on this hellscape of Twitter at @bonus_team. Facebook and Twitter are the easiest ways to find out when we are going live. We also have an Instagram. We also have a website that is teambonusaction.com, where you can go look us up, see what we're about, and find a little bit more about us. We like the Miro said, we got Monday. We got the Holy Winds, Brain. But give us a watch. Give us a like.
Right, and then that whenever since that Knox isn't here,
Don't let
Don't
your
let your
meat
don't let your
low.
meatloaf.
meatloaf. Good God, that was terrible.
There is
Comment.
no